Starting over in your late 40s, 50s, into your 60s, and certainly any time beyond that, is something that is usually very overwhelming for women, primarily because we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? So I wanted to talk to you about this mainly because I've got a lot of experience in this. I've started over 5 times in my life. Probably, if you don't count moving out from high school, and that is starting over, but I'm talking about life situations. Divorce primarily were mine, and starting over was very overwhelming no matter what age you are. But my last starting over was going through divorce in my late 40s. And I had 2 younger children in high school, and 1 junior high, 1 high school, and then I had 2 older children in college. And also after a 17-year marriage that should have probably extinguished around 15 years before that, so within a few years after it. But I started over that time. That was my 3rd divorce. And it was really harder because there was a burden financially, which most of you might experience if you were to start over in your late 40s or into your 50s. And of course, with kids still at home. And even if there are no kids living at home, there's even more feelings that you're dealing with. So I wanted to talk about women and what makes us so fragile during this time, and that it's okay. There's certainly several reasons that you would start over at this stage in life. Divorce, obviously, as I said, but also career moves, and sometimes it's not your choice. And sometimes you want to retire, but you're not sure when the right time to retire is. Sometimes you try retirement and then you go back in the workplace and things happen. Sometimes you move for a job and start over. Sometimes it is because of a death of a loved one. And that definitely, the older we get, is a strong possibility of starting over. Downsizing because you were in one home that you raised kids in perhaps, or just a larger home in a different community, and you want to downsize into a smaller community. That's pretty common, of course, at our stage in life as well. And also financial pressure can cause you to start over. Sometimes you go through life challenges from these other reasons, and you are financially strained, and sometimes you have to file bankruptcy because there's no way you can get through the rest of your life on the income that you may have when you are in a situation that caused you to start over. When I started over the last time, the hardest part for me was the financial part. Everything else I was ready for. I was long ready for that. I had spent a lot of time with that. But when the pressure hits, it's normal to want to make impulsive decisions. In other words, I want to hurry up and get through this. I just want this to be over. And sometimes women, because we're so used to putting everyone else's needs before ours, you start to make choices about how other people are going to be affected by your move and your change. And even with grown kids, they live in different places. Same with me. I had 2 in college and in different states, 1 in Texas where I live. And then the 2 younger kids had been in the same schools in another town, and I moved them back to a town that I once lived in and raised my older daughter. And so they had to make a life change in their teens, which, believe it or not, is a lot harder for kids than when they're younger, because I went through 2 divorces with 2 younger kids, and I can't really say that there was any huge impact in their lives at that time, but the teenagers, that was a whole nother story. So I just want you to understand that when you start over, it's a change, and many people don't adapt to change well. Fortunately for me, I went through a lot of change in my life growing up. Change is something that's pretty easy for me. The hardest part of the strain is just the pain that you're dealing with on top of all of the moving parts to actually starting over. So you're talking about possibly leaving a home, making a move. That is costly. You're talking about downsizing life stuff that you've probably had for a very long time. And you're also talking about time frames. So it's really smart to take 30 days and pause. I mean, 30 days is not the number that you have to stick with, but at the least, stop and organize. Get familiar with exactly where your finances are. What are you going to be responsible for? Maybe you haven't been the only one sharing that responsibility, and suddenly you are. So I think it's super important to understand what kind of financial impact this is going to have on you. If you are going through job changes and or downsizing in jobs, that also is super hard, because you've got to stop and think about all the other what ifs. And we do that, whether we like it or not. We know we're thinking ahead. We're thinking, okay, this is one change, but then what if I can't live on that income and I have to move again? Or what if I have no social life because I can't afford to buy groceries, much less go out with friends? So it's a huge impact that you have to start thinking about quickly anytime that you're starting over. So if you are preparing for this because you know it's coming, then you're more likely to have a structure, and you need to create a daily structure so that you get used to how this new life is going to feel and what it's going to look like. Also, another question would be, what am I not willing to repeat? We always know what we don't want to do, right? You should know that. If you think you know what you want to do, that's great. I can tell you from my own experience, 9 times out of 10, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I sure knew what I was never going to do again. And I think that is sometimes where you start from, because maybe you don't fully know how it's going to work out, but you absolutely know what you never want to go through again. And if you need more income, then this is a time to reassess your skills, because some people, even in our age, we have to supplement our income, and it's not as easy at our age. In fact, it's so very hard, because most people look at us and think, wow, okay, you're great, but I'm not going to get a whole lot of years out of you or spend a lot of time with you, and they're not willing to work with you. So unfortunately, I think that is life. As much as we want to think that, oh, that's not legal, that's not fair. Well, no, it's not, probably. You can't discriminate, and it's probably not fair. But let's get real, it is life, and a lot of it we don't have a choice in. So if you need a second job, there are a lot of work from home type jobs that you probably would be a good fit for. But you're in a panic mode, so you're not thinking about that. You're basically thinking, nobody's gonna hire me, I'm too old, that mindset again, that thing that keeps jumping out at you, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I can't go through this. Yes, you can. And I'm telling you, you will go through it, and then you'll come out so much stronger on the other side. So you're not starting from zero, not in our lifetime. We've already lived half our life. We're starting from experience. And that's something we didn't have when we were younger and had to start over. And even though we didn't, we just, swam through it, got through it somehow. And sometimes we made really stupid decisions when we were younger. But now we're older, and hopefully we've lived enough life that we know how to set up a structure, follow a plan. You're in transition during this time. And as if it's not enough already that we women take everything so personally, I think it's our nature to do that. And you start playing the blame game, so you automatically, everything's negative. But I can tell you that you do get through it. And sometimes you come out so much stronger. So I hope you'll stay with me in my channel, because I'm really going to talk about a lot of life transitional things. And the reason that I can talk about them so easily is because I've lived through all of it, every bit of it. So let's just say you find out that you are going to have to leave your longtime home you've lived in for many, many years. And you don't know, do you want to move out of state? Or if your grown kids and you have grandkids, do you want to live close to them? Do you want to stay in your community where you feel comfortable, where you have friends? Those are choices that you make. So when you think about it all, lay it out on paper. Nothing's better than making your list and then going through it, marking through things, put everything that you know has to happen, this is a must happen, and everything that you want to happen that may not be a must, but it might be something that you need to consider, that since I've got to make a move anyway, do I want to make a move outside of my life community, or do I want to stay in it? And honestly, you're not alone when you go through these changes. You have a community of friends, most likely, possibly church friends, maybe a best friend. I'm so blessed to have a friend that I've known, that we've known each other since the 8th grade, most of our lives. We've lived a lot of life together. Didn't always live near each other or any of that, but that's just how friendship works. You may not have your friends with you, but you've still got the connection, and they bring a lot of strength. I'm a believer, so my faith has always, God has always walked with me. Now, sometimes I abandoned him and thought I knew better and did my own thing, and usually learned that, okay, I need to step back from this and listen, pray, because I do need his help. And that's all you have to do, because he's there for you. So I want to say, as we go through these life transitions together, I'm going to talk next about divorce specifically, but I'm also going to cover issues like marital discord. Maybe it's not divorce, you don't want to be divorced, but marriage is hard. Marriage is so hard, and both people have to be giving 100%, not 50%. And if both people aren't doing that, well, then marriage discord sets in, and a lot of other feelings. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about infidelity, which is another hard subject to deal with, and I'm going to cover that in some of my videos. Also, we're going to talk about death of loved ones, and whether it's your spouse or your parents, Maybe you're caregivers to your parents. Maybe you've got both sets of parents if you're in a marriage that are going through these life changes, going from different living quarters and such, and you're having to care for them. God bless you. That's tough. I lost both my parents at a young age. They were young parents to begin with. I thought we'd all grow old in the nursing home together, but I lost both of them in their early 60s. So I'm not in that position, but I know friends that are, and it's a super hard life being a caregiver. Sometimes you're being a caregiver due to health issues. That's super hard. So when you deal with transitions at our age, it's almost like a pile-on effect. You know, one starts and then the next thing you know, it's something else. And of course, all of it impacts you financially. And a lot of times it's surprise, guess what you're gonna do now? And you have to think quickly and reach out for help. That's the most important thing. Don't carry the burden on your own. You need help, and there are a lot of resources for that. In fact, I'm starting to put a lot of those resources together in my work. I also sell real estate, and my niche is primarily working with people 50 and over, seniors, transitioning. And so I'm all in this, and I'm in it with you. So I hope you'll stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and let's stay connected. Also, my website information is on there, and I just really want to help and be a source of communication. And I love comments, questions, anything you've got. I will definitely be happy to talk to you about any of those. And if you visit my website, you can sign up to stay connected. That way I can keep you connected separately from my channel. But I love that you're here, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're also going to probably deal with some really big subjects, and that's okay, because I just know you're not alone.